Hello and welcome to TAL Radio. At TAL, we connect those who are willing to give to those who are in need. My lovely listeners and my dear audience, you're listening and watching to a wonderful series called Mindfulness. And today is something that probably, we would be talking about something that we all would like to do, but do not get time in our daily hustle bustle. What is that? It's actually introspection. So let's focus upon developing introspective practices today. And there's nobody better with me. I mean, I don't think I know anybody better than Dr. J.M. Sampath who can really throw and shed some light on this wonderful topic. So, Dr. Sampath, welcome back to TAL Radio.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks a lot. I know you're exhausted from your day's work, but
Not really, I think
but
it
since this
goes.
wasn't scheduled, yes, so we have to do it. All right. So introspection. So first of all, what does it really mean, and what do you feel that why is it so important in our lives?
The very word has the meaning introspect, which means look within. So, introspect. And many of us, I don't think, are comfortable doing that because either we don't want to look at ourselves or we don't know how to look at ourselves. Introspect is something that, I mean, you are objectively willing to examine from all dimensions or all sides when something happens or when you are confronted with something. Do you really introspect? Do you really think? Do you really see all the related elements? I think that is introspection. And I believe that skill is a very, very critical skill. And it's going to become even more important skill as we move forward in our life. And in the current days, where I think people are being called out to contribute, if you're not going to be introspective, if you're not going to be reflective, it is going to become a big challenge.
True. And Dr. Sampath, when you just mentioned that introspection actually means to look within, which none of us really want to do. I really thought because we probably have so many demons inside that we don't want to know about them. Is it so?
It need not be only the demons. It is just that you don't want to dig where it is hard to dig. Looking within is much more harder than looking outside,
True.
I mean, it's easy to find fault with somebody else than to find fault with oneself. And introspection can lead to discovering not just one's flaws, but also one's orientation, one's thought processes as to why one does the way one does things. Those are the kind of things we get insight into when we truly introspect.
Got it. So, Dr. Sampath, can you actually share with some example from your like personal life, or maybe some time that, when introspection really led to some major breakthrough in your life that, it can really help our audience to understand why is it necessary?
Well, I will share. I used to lead workshops on value clarification, and I used to do an exercise called value auction. And there used to be 15 values. We would give notional 15,000 rupees to every participant. I would auction the values, and people will bid for it. And so at the end, I'll have name of the value, amount bid for, name of the bidder, and we would ask them, why do you want to give so much money? And somebody would say, my father was very disciplined. I'm not as disciplined as he is. So I was willing to give any amount of money for that. Now, people would come and appreciate me for that particular exercise every time I did that exercise. Now, here I was in Kanyakumari doing a pro bono workshop for Vivekananda Kendra life workers. And I proposed this exercise, and most of the participants were very excited. But one of them walked up to me and said, Sampath, I don't want to participate in your exercise. So I asked him, why? He said, I want all values in your game. I will never be able to get all of them. So I said, what do you want me to do? And he was very blunt. He said, that's your problem, not mine. I know what I want to do. He was 23, I was 30. I somehow managed to finish the workshop, and I came back. And even as I was coming back in the train from Kanyakumari to Chennai, the next 3-4 days and nights, I couldn't sleep. I was just saying, this guy is asking me, telling me something which is so valuable, which I don't seem to understand. And I was only introspecting, reflecting. What is he trying to tell me? What is he trying to tell me? And on the fifth day morning, I cracked it, which is no single value by itself is valuable. Values are interdependent, and one needs to understand this interdependence in order to understand one's own behavior. Now, that led to me discovering a tool. Today, we call it leadership orientation instrument, using which we are creating a very, very powerful AI-based learning and development module. And in the last 35 years, I've used this tool with over 500,000 people. Now, that tool wouldn't have been born if I was not willing to introspect, reflect. And given the circumstances where 34 workshops people have appreciated me, I could have simply written off saying that this guy is not willing to participate. He's not cooperative. He's not a good learner. I could have put the entire blame on somebody else. But if you are willing to reflect, if you are willing to introspect, maybe there is something that you will grasp. I can go on and give you so many such examples. I remember I was having a conversation with, I got an opportunity to meet the head of learning and development of Ford in early 2000. And in that year, the budget for training and development in Ford was $80 million. And I had managed to get an hour's time with the head of learning and development. So when my friend was taking me for the meeting, she asked me, "Are you prepared for the meeting?" So I said, "Well, I did extra meditation this morning because I'm going there to talk to a person." At that point of time, Ford had 320,000 employees world over, and he is responsible for all the learning and development. So I wanted to understand what learning means to him. And as we were having a conversation, I ended up discovering something which led to me creating a very interesting workshop 3 or 6 months later, where I developed a workshop called Learn to Learn. Uh, I realized just because we don't introspect, we don't reflect, our learning is also of a very poor quality. It is important to reflect. It is important to run through a conversation you had with somebody when you sit quietly. It's like, I don't know, I grew up in a village. So sometimes you can see the buffalo would bring out the food it had eaten and it would masticate. We all will have to be doing that on a regular basis. Then we can get the essence of many things that we come across in our life. So for me, I think I reflect a lot. I think about the way I think. I think about the way I think about the way I think.
You think about the way you think, and you think about the that is lovely. And you
So
just
there are
mentioned
many
that.
levels I go. In fact, because your mind is a master manipulator. It wants you to be where you are. If somebody comes and tells you, Sandy, your hairstyle is not good, you will find every reason why you should keep that hairstyle because you believe that is the one which goes very well with you. So you will not catch yourself actually defending something that you like. So if you so very few people think of them, very few people think about the way they think. Among them, there are even more few people who think about the way they think about the way they think. So I think it's not a play of words. It's actually how deep are you willing to go in your reflections, in your thinking, in your introspection.
And one more thing you mentioned, Dr. Sampath, about the extra meditation. Now, let's talk a little bit about meditation. Does meditation really helps in introspection, or is it like a spirituality kind of a path? It's a different subject altogether, or is it related to introspection as well?
I think when you learn any form of meditation, I was fortunate at 23, I was introduced to transcendental meditation. Any form of meditation, as long as you are regular, I mean, not giving a break, consistently when you practice, your ability to reflect and introspect certainly will improve. What people do is they'll go for meditation, they expect some nirvana in 1 week, and if that doesn't happen, they give up the meditation. So that is not, I mean, you in 1 week, you won't even know one
True.
stroke I mean, in 1 year, maybe you will get some insight into meditation, or you will start seeing some results of meditation. But many of us are very impatient. We want immediate results, immediate outcomes. Particularly the Gen Z is very, very impatient. If they don't see results coming immediately, they will not continue or pursue that.
Absolutely. And talking about meditation, I would like to go a further step ahead. And I just wanted to understand, like, when we talk about introspection, is it different from overthinking? Because whenever we think, also, we are really trying to reflect what we need to do in the future or what we have done in the past. Like, it's certainly, about ourselves. Is it different than overthinking, or is it like almost same if we need to, probably weigh them?
I think overthinking is very different from introspection. In overthinking, you can imagine things. Oh, I mean, if this happens, what will happen? If that happens, what will happen? If you are in an anxiety mode, or if you are very excited, oh, this can be done, oh, that can be done. You get into overthinking and over imagination. But when you introspect, when you reflect, you are bringing out the pieces very objectively, seeing them with very little bias around it, and trying to figure out what it means or what all it could mean, and then make sense out of it. So, overthinking is different from introspection. In introspection, you are looking within and you're looking at all the possible dimensions of event that happened with you, of something that you've been confronted with, or some interaction that took place. You're trying to reflect. I can give you a interesting example. I was just walking. I mean, I was coming from Noida to Connaught Place in a bus, and I saw a man carrying his child on his shoulders, and I was just reflecting on what all happens in this relationship. I was truly reflecting, and when I reached the office, I ended up writing a small little poem, which was in the name of concern. In the name of concern, he feeds me food and water. He teaches me how to speak his language. He plays with me as and when he feels like. He introduces me to all his friends, my child, my child, my child. He does all this and many more things in the name of concern. But when I stretch my wings to fly, I feel limited. Well, I am a caged bird. How many people have I caged in the name of concern? How
True.
often we all tell, I'm telling this only for your good. How do you know what is good for somebody? Even if that somebody is your own child. If the child doesn't experience life, how is that child going to grow? If you're going to become so protective, not letting them experience things, how are they going to grow? So somewhere like that is a outcome of a reflection and introspection. So when you truly, genuinely reflect, you will get very good insights about life, about things, even about a problem that you're trying to solve. If you're very reflective, you can come up with more. If you're introspective, you can come up with more solutions or better quality solution. In a relationship, if you're introspective, you won't think twice to go and tell a person, I'm very sorry, maybe I made a mistake, because you introspected and realized that the issue was not just the other person's, it was also yours. So therefore, but the tendency for us is, I mean, we have eyes which is focused outside, we don't have, we don't have a mechanism to turn that eyes inward so that we can
True.
see all that's going on in our mind, in our life.
Dr. Sampath, when we talk about, contemporary society, respective, I mean, whether it's joint families or nuclear families or whatever it is, do you feel that in today's society, what do you feel is introspection as a skill? Is it discouraged or is it encouraged?
I am not sure if I have a, um, a good answer for this question, but I believe when route learning became the way of education, many of us stopped thinking and reflecting. I don't think our education system demanded any level of introspection. So therefore, that was not encouraged. And at home, particularly a middle class, they were worried in your marks rather than who you're growing as a person. If you came first, it doesn't matter whether you spoke to people, you're rude, you're rough. It didn't matter to them. They never consciously helped somebody to reflect and introspect. So
Right.
therefore, I don't think it was a natural skill that was gifted to people or nurtured or encouraged in people. But if you are someone who is willing to take accountability for yourself, start reflecting on why you do what you do. It can be a very nice journey for growing oneself, for a personal growth.
All right. So moving ahead, when we talk about personal growth, there's certainly a lot of daily practices which are involved in it. So when we talk about introspection, like self-introspection, what are the daily practices, a layman, like someone like me can really follow and we can reflect upon ourselves?
I think everybody should have something in which they can forget themselves. When I say forget themselves, forget the outer world. It could be you love gardening, and when you're doing that 1 hour of gardening, you don't think of anything else. You may be playing music. When you play that music, you don't think of anything else. You might be meditating, and when you meditate, you're truly reflecting on several things that's going on inside. So I think even if you're playing a game, imagine at that during that period that you're playing that game, your mind wouldn't have wandered anywhere else. Your mind would have been very, very focused on what you're doing. So therefore, I think that is one practice I would encourage people to definitely do. Over and above that, whenever there is a conflict, whenever something went right, whenever there is a significant event, it is nice to sit back and ask yourself what went on here? What made this a success? What made this a failure? What led to this conflict with this person? What is the source of it? Then suddenly you'll realize that it is sometimes your ego, sometimes you're unwilling to see the other's point of view. You'll get a lot of insights. So, all these are opportunities in our life to reflect and introspect. But again, I think many of us are very comfortable pointing fingers at others than pointing fingers at oneself. Um, so, I mean, I still remember, I may not be able to recite the poem that I wrote on that evening. The first time that I went to US, by the time I returned, I had lost my father. And when I came back, I mean, obviously, when they got in those days, there was no mobile. And by the time they got in touch with me, it was already 18 hours or 20 hours had gone by. So they couldn't keep the body for us to return. So they said, you finish and come anyway, Bill. But when I came home, the home felt very haunted for me. And before I went, there was one little interaction I had with my dad, which was a little abrupt and little confrontational. So in my mind, I said, well, when I come back, I'll go and settle it with him. I'll apologize to him. And but by the time I came, he was not there. And when I was reflecting as to why this happened and what I could do, I wrote a small little poem for myself. There's no time like here and there's no place like now to do what you believe in. But many a time we keep postponing things. Kal bol denge, I'll tell tomorrow. Why hurry? So therefore, I think if you are reflective, you will get a lot of deeper insights into your life.
True, very, very true. And you're stating really, I mean, the truth about your life and you lost your father and the kind of talks you had really moved me. I mean, it must have happened with so many people, but do they really remember it for as long as you have done it and try to, mend things that way? That's another introspection, probably. So, and
Yeah.
Dr. Sampath, you've mentioned now and then regarding meditation. I would really like to know, and I'm sure the audience who've been following us for quite some time now would really like to know, like, how did you get introduced to it at first? Like, was it like you were looking for a, as you said, nirvana? Was it
Mhm.
something like that? Or was it like, everybody is doing it, let me also try it? Or were there turbulent times in your life that you wanted to have some peace within? Like, how was it? How did you get introduced to it?
None of what you said. So
Okay.
I was my first year of masters at Madras School of Social Work, and I had one of my teachers who was himself practicing transcendental meditation. I was a very young, angry man, and I would stand up and speak for what I think is right. So he has been observing me, and one day he called and said, "Somebody go learn this meditation." Typically, I would have said, "We are 50 of us. Why only me? Why not others?" But that day I didn't feel like, and I very next day went. It's a 3-day initiation process in transcendental meditation. He also told me where to go and learn. And I learned. And I continued that meditation. He was Professor T.K. Nair. I, he was my mentor till the day he was alive. So I was introduced to meditation by my mentor and teacher. And I, without questioning, went and got initiated and started practicing it.
That's lovely. Like they say, obedient disciple. Like whatever my guru will say, and I'm going to follow it. But maybe you never did it, but that was one lucky day.
Yeah, that was one lucky day, perhaps.
True. And when we talk about introspection, what do you feel like if people really want to start on this journey, like they have not, like probably people, most of us, we probably think we do not have time to reflect on ourselves. Like, we have to do this and do this. There's so many tasks aligned in our lives, on a day-to-day basis. But if somebody really wants to start this beautiful journey of introspection, what do you think are the basic things that they can really start off with?
I mean, one, I would say go and learn a meditation, but over and above that, I mean, ask yourself whenever you're doing anything, why do I want to do this? And you might get an answer and ask a why for that.
A lot of
And,
whys.
just because that why will give you, help you dig deep and figure out the very root of why you want to do anything, be it in your work, be it in your relationship, be it in your life, wherever it is. The why behind is very important.
Right. And how do you feel that, introspection really, do you feel that it plays a very significant role in our, I would say personal life, professional life, our emotional well-being? Do you really feel it really reflects upon us if we do, if we introspect?
Yeah, today there is a culture that at the drop of the hat, people want to go to a therapist, people want to go to a counselor,
True. Very true.
not realizing that there is a therapist inside you, there is a counselor inside you, if you're willing to reflect, if you're willing to introspect. I think we need to develop the art of an ability to talk with oneself and be able to observe that conversation that goes on in your mind between you and yourself. And once you are able to do that, I think you will see uh, a lot of dimensions about life which otherwise you were not aware earlier to that. So I think it is important to, for me, it's something which is very precious, and particularly in today's world, if you don't reflect, you are going to be in big trouble.
That's a big message. In today's world, if you do not introspect and reflect, you will be in big trouble. Moving on from that, I would really like to understand, is self introspection, is it like equal to being self critics, or are they two like different parameters altogether of weighing yourself?
I think introspection is not necessarily or equal to self-critic. I mean, you can introspect on something which went well and see what is that you did which made it well. So it is not critiquing, it is about understanding what is that you did very well. Similarly, when something went wrong, when you introspect, you realize how did you end up contributing to that not going right? So therefore, for me, introspection cannot be equated to self-critiquing. Introspection is objectively looking within with respect to whatever has been happening with you.
All right. And of course, as we're talking about introspection, to make it a little easier for our audience and our lovely listeners, could you mention, I mean, or refer to some books or quotes or philosophies that they can probably look up to and make this path a little easier for themselves?
Well, I think my journey to introspection started with a person who made me think. She is no more, unfortunately, but she was a person. I should narrate this incident for you, though we are at the fag end, it's okay. I was to go to meet her at 11 o'clock at a particular place. She was to become my sister-in-law. And on that particular day, I got caught in the school. And there was some review meeting, and the meeting only got over at 2:30. And I went there at 3 o'clock. And she was still sitting there, waiting for me, 4 hours. So I asked her, "Are you not upset with me?" And she burst into laughter. She said, "Upset with you? Why should I be upset with you? Because I came late. She said, when did you start imagining that you're responsible for my emotions? And then she made another statement. Look, if you come, I'm happy. If you don't come, I'll think of the days you came and still be happy. Happiness is my choice. In fact, I was hardly 23. I said, I don't understand any of this crap. When you come to meet me, if you're going to be beyond 15 minutes late, you will not find me. But much later in my life, I realized how reflective she was, how introspective she was. She was one of the very popular poets and very deep thinker. Coming to books, I think there are a few books that have helped me, and I would. One is The Little Prince by Anthony de Saint-Exupéry, a book which has been in print for 80 years, translated into over 70 languages, uh, 200 million copies sold. Something should be there in that book. I would recommend that book to everybody. I have personally gifted over 1,000 copy to more than 1,000 people in my life.
Wow.
Another book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. If anybody wants to be a learner, that's a book which gives you good insight into what it means to reflect and introspect. Because every learning is born out of a reflection that the bird does to become the fastest flyer on the earth, while seagulls are not meant to fly. Another book is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. There's another book called Zen Bones and Flesh. It is nothing but parables and koans, which are almost 5,000 years old. There's another book that also made me think a lot, Song of the Bird. I have written two books which I would recommend to people. One is, three books, Discovery. The basic objective of that book itself is to introduce basic human values to a person and to initiate a process of self-inquiry, which takes care of the need to learn to learn. I also wrote another book called Inner Realities Notes from the School of Life, where basically the book is an outcome of all my reflections and introspections. There's another book called How Full Is Your Cup, which has nothing but 64 parables. And I'm sure I'm just giving you a small list. There are so many books, so many processes, so many methods, so many forms of meditation that one should. It's not that this is better than that, that is better than something else. Go pick up something and be with it as long as you can and see how it works for you.
Lovely. So, my dear listeners and my lovely audience, go pick up something from whatever Dr. Sampath has told you, all the list of the books that he has mentioned, and probably you can buy one of his books also. So, Dr. Sampath, thank you so much for joining in today and throwing this, letting us know so much about introspection. But if somebody really wants to introspect and get in touch with you, what is that way?
They can always mail me at sampath@arpita.com, SAMPATH at ARPITHA.com. And I would also invite them to visit my LinkedIn page or Facebook or Instagram handle called the Soul Kathas, where we every week publish a bite-sized video which will help people to think and reflect on life and various dimensions of life.
All right. So, lovely audience, here you go. Keep introspecting, keep reflecting, and keep moving ahead in life. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Sampath. It was a pleasure having you on TAL Radio.
Thank you, Sandy.